Not quite 1/4, and never just half, but the entirety of one primate, whole. It is the part of a story, an idea that means more to you than me. Hello and welcome to Full Gorilla Life. We are Jeremy Keene,
Larry Medina,
and Corey Hewlings.
Each week, we will break down an important life concept or talk with an inspiring person so that you can live your full gorilla life.
Hello, welcome back. We're here with Joanne Blandford from Main Street, Fort Pierce, and she was instrumental in starting the ghost tours in Fort Pierce. So we thought for our Halloween episode, we'd get into it and talk to her a little bit about how she started it and what it's all about. So you want to...
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you.
We're going to start, I guess.
Yeah, let's,
Jeremy's
what we like to do is the Gorilla Gauntlet, 10 rapid fire questions just to get a little background about you.
Okay.
Kind of loosen it up a little bit. So if you can say pass, you can make up any answer you want. If you married or single?
Married.
Any children?
3.
Awesome. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Favorite movie or book?
Oh, I like, let's see. Let's do Lonesome Dove.
Okay.
Movie. And book, A Land Remembered.
Oh, look
Oh,
at that!
nice.
I
Little
appreciate
fall
it. She came with both.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
Sometimes
the first.
it stumps people.
Yeah, that's the first to
Yeah.
throw out both. So
I'm not a quick thinker, so I don't know how I
I don't
pulled
know.
that
That was
out.
pretty quick.
You're the first one, so I
Yeah.
think you're quicker than you give yourself credit for.
Beer, whiskey, or wine?
Beer.
Nice.
What craft or like?
Craft.
Okay. And any good ones in Fort Pierce that we can give a shout out to?
Well, Sailfish Brewery.
Oh, yeah.
Sailfish Brewery.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And
Nice.
my favorite right now is Lone Friar.
Is that a local brewery?
That's from Sailfish.
Oh, it's
From
one of their.
Sailfish.
it's one of
Oh,
theirs.
okay. Ah.
Are they in Publix or no?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And we
So,
just
yeah.
went
Are
up to
they?
SeaWorld and Universal last year,
They've-
and they have
Sailfish.
at both places
Yeah.
Sailfish.
All right.
They've started some pretty big distribution now.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. Didn't know that. Reservations or just walk in?
Just walk in.
Right on.
Huh.
Favorite type of food?
Oh, goodness. Let's see. I don't know. I like to try different things. So I right now I like Thai. We have a-
Thai's good.
yes.
Delicious.
You're like the fourth person that has said Thai food.
Yeah,
That's true, huh? I
Yeah.
haven't thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
feel
don't
like
eat
you
a lot
went
of
baby
Thai.
talk on that.
Yeah,
You did.
Well, I was too far away from the mic.
What do you drive?
Suburban, big old mommy vehicle.
Oh, wow. And city you live in?
In Fort Pierce.
Awesome. There you go. That was
I got one more though.
an 11th question.
Candy corn. Throw it away or eat it.
It's
Good Halloween
That's a
question.
good Halloween question.
I eat it and then I get sick.
So
I can't stop.
I can appreciate. So
So you like it?
my wife's a big fan. I actually bought her a bag on the way home today. So
We had just posted this on our Facebook, and I know it's a hot topic this time of year. It's like I still don't know who keeps all these candy corn places in business because I feel like most people don't like it.
so go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think it's just nostalgic or something. Because it does. It makes me sick when I eat it, but
Yeah.
it's like
But
I
you
see
still
it.
eat
I
I'm not a huge fan, but I will eat it until it's gone. And I think that's just my
Yeah.
normal routine with food, most
Yeah.
foods. So, but I walked into Walgreens today and bought. My wife was wanting some, so I bought some. They have like
She wanted some candy
she
corn?
loves candy corn.
Okay.
Well, yeah. But they had like I want to say 10 different varieties, not just shapes, but flavors and stuff. They're branching out, Corey. So you think it's going?
Still
It's
garbage.
a dead art, but
It's
coming
still
strong.
candy corn.
It's coming
Okay.
strong. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So I'm with you.
Put lipstick on. What's the saying? Put lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
It's still a pig.
All right. So Joanne, you started the whole ghost tour in Fort Pierce. That's how I kind of reached out to Main Street Fort Pierce. They put me in touch with you. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I work for Main Street Fort Pierce, which revitalizes the downtown area. And back in 2004, there wasn't much going on in the evenings. We were trying to get more people out, and we were doing these tours for school-age kids. They were history tours around downtown Fort Pierce. And we said, hey, why don't we make this into a nighttime event for adults? So the very first ones were done in October of 2004. And we used candles. We had one tour of maybe 20 people or a couple tours. I forget what it was. But everyone held a candle and we walked around the downtown area. So it kind of grew from there into what it is today.
So how many people get involved with it today?
We have around 100 volunteers because there's 4 tours over 2 nights. Each tour has around 8 to 10 what we call ghost, and they are based on historical figures that walked and talked in downtown Fort Pierce.
So they have like actors that go in.
Oh.
That's cool.
Okay,
Yes.
where do we get these actors from?
Well, we've come up with a good list from doing it for so many years of people who have done it before. Now, last year we really worked on getting descendants of the characters, of actual family of these characters.
Okay.
So we have a handful of people who play the role of their.
That's some crazy legwork, though.
Yeah.
Like,
It is.
Yeah.
It's a massive undertaking, and on top of those volunteers, we also have 9 guides per tour. So there's about 40 guides involved as well.
okay. And
So
how many patrons come to do the tour?
we had around 900 this year.
Wow. So from
And-
20 to 900.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear ghost tours, I immediately just think it's going to be like a campfire type, right? You're going to have a flashlight up against your face and try to be scary, right?
It's a little deceiving, the name, but it's the full name is Ghost of Fort Pierce Past.
Okay.
And so it's not a scary tour. It's more historically based. You're going to see, quote unquote, ghosts of past characters in downtown Fort Pierce.
Okay.
That's pretty cool because I've been several places in the country, from New York to Tennessee to just several places that I've done ghost tours at. And I always find it more interesting when it's an historical representation of something that happened, not just somebody saw an orb there one time. Because at least I'm going to learn some history.
Yes.
I mean, there's something,
No, I know what you're saying. I agree
other
with
than
you.
just, somebody saw a light one time and I'd be like, yeah, that was probably a flashlight guy. So what are some of the highlights on the tour?
Well, I would say the crowd favorite, and to take what you just said, I love the ghost tours in different cities too, but I want to know that what they're saying is true.
Yes.
And we used to repeat a ghost story of the Boston House. That's a crowd favorite in Fort Pierce. It's a very unique house. It was built in 1909. And there was a story about Alicia Perkins. She lost her husband on the sea, and she haunts the 3rd story. Well, if you actually go back in history, it was never a bed and breakfast at the time where she was supposed to have stayed there. There's no record of her or the tragedy that took place. There is an actual tragedy that took place in that house, but it involves the second sheriff of St. Lucie County. His son got a hold of his revolver and shot his son's friend, or shot his friend, his 9-year-old, 10-year-old friend in the house. So
And
there
when-
could be
when
some.
was that?
I'm sorry.
What year was that?
That was, I believe, he would have been sheriff around, I think it was around 1912-ish, that
Okay.
kind of
And
very early 1900s.
So why do you think that story started? The whole embellishment, right?
Well, I think that there were some things that happened in the house, some paranormal activity. So I think people,
Sure. Yeah.
and so I think people embellished, and we don't know where the story came from, and we portrayed it for a while, in the
course.
very early on.
It's fun.
Until you,
Right. So you
I
sit
want
there,
to
you're
be
like,
able to
"No."
back up what I
Understood.
put out there.
Yeah, if
So-
you're going to tell a story of the historical piece to
Now
it.
it's a bed and breakfast now?
No. It was a residence when it first was built, and then up until a few years ago, it was a law firm,
Oh, okay.
and now it has just been bought, and the people who bought it are restoring it. It has a new roof, new windows, so I'm happy to see that.
Some holograms.
I mean, if you buy that house, you got to play it up, right?
I would.
Absolutely.
I would buy some
Absolutely.
holograms. Yeah, I would hook it up.
Now, I believe, and this is part of the true history. There were, I believe, in the 60s and 70s, a couple who lived there who did seances up in the attic. And so that may have been when some of this
Okay.
stuff.
Oh, that's
Alright.
that third story.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
Okay.
And is that where do you know if that's where the little boy shot or the boy shot the friend, or you don't know?
I don't believe it was in the attic. I
Yeah.
believe it was, one story said it was outside. One story said it was in the father's den.
Yeah, but
in the newspaper.
if ghosts are going to hang out somewhere, it's probably the attic
Or the den.
basement.
Yeah,
I think the den's a nice haunted. I
absolutely.
think,
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
But here's the thing, like they're already hiding, right? Like
Yeah.
Are they, or you just don't see them?
yeah, I
that's
don't
what I'm
know.
saying. They're hiding
Yeah, but I feel like if you're going to
to the human person. I'm just saying, like it's just kind of silly that they're always in the attic or a basement.
listen, they like it there. Okay.
They like a bed too. All right,
They might. They might.
your bed might be the best place to be. All right, I'm just throwing that out there.
Not mine. Okay.
Yeah, the pitch black in the middle of the night. right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
exactly.
So what's some other stops on the tour then?
Well, now we have this year we renamed them the Sunrise City Tour. The Sunrise Theater is on the Sunrise City Tour. And
I love that area.
It's actually the theater is one of the projects that Main Street Fort Pierce restored. That was our project.
Oh, really?
But right after it opened, and you can look this up in the newspaper or the local newspaper, there's a story that what are the people that come and stay the night? The ghost hunters. There's a
Okay.
Florida
Okay.
ghost hunting group that actually stayed in the
it
theater
really?
overnight. You can look this up, and so I'm not saying anything that they didn't put out there.
Of course,
But they turned out all the lights and they turned on all their machines and
they're paranormal
their
machines.
paranormal machines.
Gotcha.
And I think they actually
I've seen
stayed
those before.
2 nights, 2
Okay.
different times.
Must have been some action the first night.
Yeah.
They may stay 2 nights. No.
Yeah,
And that was
back?
after it was restored then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
They were like, we're not staying in some old dingy one. We want a restored theater.
oh, they could have probably found more when it was being restored. I mean, it was a creepy building.
was it really?
They have this basement that goes underground.
Again, basements. See?
And it looked like a shelter, during the 1950s. It was just underneath one of these stairways. And then it also had, which not a lot of people don't know, it has a 3rd-story apartment where Mr. Kobelgard, the man who built the building, would stay sometimes. So
Is it still an apartment today?
they restored it, and it's not, they take, I think if you are a patron or somebody like that, you can go up to that 3rd story.
To
But
visit
Okay.
him, he's still there probably, or
yeah, he's probably hanging around.
the attic.
It might be. I'm actually going to a show there in November.
They
So
get some pretty big names in there.
I'm
They
gonna
do.
go see it. I'm gonna go see if I can get up there.
You should.
You're going to a magic show, though, aren't you?
It's okay.
Okay.
Well, magic
Maybe
and paranormal.
he can make it happen.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
All right. So Sunrise Theater.
The Sunrise Theater's on there. And then Dan McCarty, he was the governor of the state of Florida back in the 1950s. This is one of our descendants who his, I think it's his great niece, it's not his granddaughter, I believe his great niece and her husband play Dan McCarty and his wife Ollie. And they are a dynamic couple. And she wants to next year play her other relatives, which was Dan McCarty's grandparents, on another tour. So it's cool that those two were there.
And where is that stop at?
That stop this year, it's across from the Lloyd Turco Law Firm, which is right around the corner from the Boston House on that same tour.
Okay.
And that's where Dan McCarty's house, unfortunately, it's not there anymore, but it was where he
Right
grew
there.
up, was right there next to the Boston House. And but the courthouse is on that tour. There was one hanging in Fort Pierce back in 1909, I believe.
So it was like an ordered hanging,
Yes, this
and
was
it happened right there.
happened right
At the
there.
courthouse?
At the courthouse. The courthouse that's there now is the 3rd courthouse. The first one was built in 1909, and this was a scaffold they had built specifically for that one trial and that one. It was 2 railroad workers. One of them killed the other one, and
Wow.
So where did the hanging occur? Do you know?
It would have been right around. There's a courtyard where the St. Lucie County Courthouse is
Like
now.
in front of the
It would have
entrance door
been
there.
somewhere
Right
right
in
around
there.
there. Mm-hmm.
That's
Interesting.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea.
No, no.
But
Yeah.
we only had one hanging.
One on record, yes.
One on. Yeah.
One law
Unfortunately,
enforcement.
this is the South.
Yes, that's
Right.
That's
So they do that only twice a year, but they do other tours throughout the year.
yes. Uh-huh.
Are they historic tours or?
Yes. And the state of Florida, the Cultural Affairs Department put together an app called Florida Stories, and you can download this app. They have walking tours, free narrated, professionally narrated walking tours. A whole bunch of cities in Florida have them now. They're probably as close to 30 to 40 cities. St. Augustine has 2. Fort Pierce has 2. We have our downtown and our Lincoln Park district tours. And
And you just download the app.
uh-huh.
And what was the name of the app?
It's the Florida Stories app.
Okay.
And when you bring it up on your phone, you can it flashes photos. It'll download the tour, so it's a narrated audio tour, but it'll flash photos. Whichever stop you're in front of, it'll show you historic photos of that stop.
Is it like GPS as well, so it knows kind of where you're at, and it can
Yes.
just
I
that's
think
pretty cool.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. Some, again,
That's
people.
really neat.
No, it's really neat because if you think about it, right, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm at home, I'm doing nothing, I'm bored. That literally, I mean, granted, you have to pay for gas to get there, right? But aside from that, it's free.
It is. And, we're along the lines of some of the bigger cities like St. Augustine or Key West, and that we have these 2 tours as well. There's a bunch like Fernandina Beach. There's just a whole bunch of smaller cities too. So if you're in somewhere in Florida and you're having to stay overnight, or you should look at this app and see if
You're
one
anywhere
of these
close.
tours. Yeah.
Yeah, because you said there's 50 of them, right?
Mm-hmm. I think Tarpon Springs was one that came on the same time we did. They were doing about 4 twice a year, bringing them on board, and this has been going on for a few years now.
Now, when people go on these tours, like, do you ever have somebody like be like, I thought it was a ghost tour? Like,
Yes.
and how upset are they?
I'm not sure. I don't get those comments. I get my feelings hurt very easily. No. I'm normally running behind scenes, so I don't.
Be
Oh,
nice,
okay.
people.
Yeah,
Be nice.
I do.
Don't be jerks, guys.
I get very detailed sometimes, and I have to remember that the average person wants a fun tale, and
They want to be scared.
Yes.
Just have somebody jump out from
Yes.
the bushes at the end
There you
Yeah.
go.
because they won't be suspecting it.
Exactly.
At that point, they've already kind of embraced
they-
the historic piece of it. Now
Yeah,
it's
and
like,
then
bam!
just freak them out.
Coming at
That's a
you.
great idea. I'm putting that on the list for
Yeah,
next
you
year.
definitely should. Just
I should-
Pennywise
like
the clown.
An alleyway, just hop out in the middle of.
Yeah.
Yes, Pennywise the clown just comes from out of nowhere.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
have they thought about expanding beyond the 2 nights because it's so popular now?
Yes, we don't know how we're going to do it because of the amount of volunteers, but and we're also we want to keep things fresh, so we're looking into we're always looking for more characters. I have a great aunt who was the first woman, probably maybe one of the first people to do a parachute jump when the inlet opened in 1921.
The Fort Pierce Inlet?
The Fort Pierce Inlet. And so I'm thinking about doing a story for her and making her a character.
Okay.
But there's all these great, little known or people that you don't know a lot about, but they have neat stories that we can bring alive.
Oh yeah,
It's literally what we felt about our podcast.
kind of the goal. Yeah.
That's kind of what got us going.
Yeah, our whole
there
premise
really
was
is.
we pass by people every day with great stories, but we
Mhm.
don't get to hear them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
And
either because we don't take the time or today's technology and everything keeps us away from interacting with each other,
And this kind of goes along with the theme here, but whenever I see a graveyard, I think every headstone has its own story, its own,
I've never
Yeah.
thought that.
Yeah.
It's a good way.
So-
It's a good perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never thought that at all. It's different.
So this one's more historic. So do you believe in the paranormal when you and
A little known fact, I guess no one here knows this fact about me, but I used to collect ghost story books, and I have probably 40 to 50 ghost story books from little towns across the United States and Ireland, because I've been to Ireland. But I like the history. I like looking into things before I
Right.
believe something. But I think there's,
So these ghost hunters in Sunrise, did they find anything
there were
that you know of?
the batteries. I believe it was up in the attic, or up in, I'm sorry, the third story apartment.
Okay.
The batteries drained almost immediately, or they couldn't keep the batteries up there. So they thought, I guess that's one of the signs.
That happens on my iPhone sometimes.
Uh-oh.
That's because you've been on it all night.
Oh,
It's not an immediate. It feels
He-
immediate,
he
but you've
just-
just been on it a long time.
And he didn't notice it till the end.
yeah, that's what that is. That's different.
So is that the story that the battery, like
I've
the
never-
batteries kept draining?
And there was another story that they said they were in an elevator and they had the microphone on at the time, and when they replayed it, it sounded like someone or something said AAA batteries or something real weird. And
So just someone in the corner.
It just
So-
sounds
Yeah.
like
I'm
I was playing a prank on them.
Yeah.
yes,
you should have went with AAA batteries. Maybe they would have
They would
lasted
have lasted
longer.
longer. Did you get the Energizer? Was
Yeah.
it the bunny? No, because I'm pretty much a skeptic on this. I'm not like, I'm kind of a anti. I've gone on ghost tours and they are a lot of fun. I've done them in St. Augustine and Key West, which you had mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
I'd like to check this one out though, because
I
I
did
like
one
this.
in-
I like the historical side of
I
it
did
as well.
one in, was it Nashville? I think we did one in Nashville. It might have been Gatlinburg. I'm not sure. But the lady had said that it was a historic type, you know. But she said 1 year they do it. It was a private company, you know. She does it all year round. And the fire department, like, threw a dummy from the roof as she brought her group there.
Oh, wow.
You know? Because it was right at the spot. The firehouse was right at a spot where somebody had jumped from a steeple or something at
man.
one point.
That is awesome.
That's
So
Like a
they
live
screamed
action,
and threw a dummy from the roof, but it was like one of those heavy, like real dummies, you know.
So
So it made
low.
a
The kind they like
thud.
carry.
Yeah,
They
it
carry
made a thud and
it would have hit the ground.
it limped.
Oh,
and they
man.
screamed. I was like, yeah, I would probably scream at that one. And I'd like to think I keep a pretty cool head about me, but I probably would have been like,
Oh no, that's
yeah.
yeah, that would have freaked me out.
Okay. My wife's going to get on my case if I don't ask. Was there any other murders or creepy mysteries
Oh,
on
boy,
the tour?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, let's get into that.
Okay.
This part of Florida, South Florida, was pretty much, we think of the Wild West as being the last frontier and in the late 1800s, but this part of Florida was not occupied. And
Yeah.
so you're coming into the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was a lot of wild things that happened. There was a shootout between, I said second sheriff earlier, he was actually the third sheriff. No, he was the second sheriff. Sorry, I was correct. There was a shootout between the first sheriff of Sheriff Carlton.
Just FYI, we're not going to check your facts.
So you're nailing them. You're doing great.
Okay.
Somebody out there might, but we're not going to.
We believe
And
you
if they do, we'll
100%.
be like, you guys are wrong.
yeah, she's right. You're wrong. Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But there was a guy that came in he was the night marshal, and the sheriff, I guess they were over each other's territory downtown. They were having words back and forth, and one night,
Wait, the night marshal and the sheriff are two different people?
Yes.
Like if you work midnight shift, it's not the same as the sheriff?
One's Batman.
I think the businesses hired the night marshal to kind of keep an eye on their stuff.
Okay.
And the sheriff, he's the big dog in town, so
Yeah.
you're kind of stepping on his family had gone back a couple generations at this point, and this night marshal was a new guy in town.
okay.
So
I
there was
gotcha.
some bad blood, and
So he just showed up and he's like, I'm going to be the night marshal.
yes, basically.
So wait, they had a shootout. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I keep interrupting the story.
shootout
But it's
right in the middle of downtown Fort Pierce, and
like South 2nd Street down that area?
yes, yep. There's actually a plaque on one of our buildings. If you know where the 2nd Street Bistro is, right across the street, there's
Okay.
a tall 3-story building, and there's a plaque
And that's where
about
it happened at?
Sheriff Carlton on there.
Is that on the ghost tour?
That you know what? He was last year, and we're going to bring him back. We take Ghost off sometimes, but last year he was played by one of his descendants, and it was wonderful. We hope to have him back next year.
So who lost the shootout? The sheriff or the night marshal?
The sheriff shot, and this guy's name was Disney.
Oh,
Wow.
It was Marshall Disney.
so Marshall Disney lost.
Well, the sheriff died. Marshall Disney shot him, and he passed away. And then Marshall Disney was very badly hurt and almost hurt again in a mob because of all the sheriff's relatives. So they put him on a train, and they did the trial up in Orange County, which is where
Walt
Disney
is.
is today. It was kind of
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
probably absolutely no relation to Disney.
Yes,
but
We're gonna say it is.
yeah,
No, I'm
a
joking.
weird coincidence.
We're not checking your facts. We're making our own. Okay. Okay. And now I see where we're at.
That's pretty crazy, though.
That is
So-
pretty crazy.
So
Yeah.
did he get convicted of anything?
Was it at night?
It was, he did get some time, but not what you think he would have received for.
Well, I guess if the sheriff's kind of calling him out, I mean, I assumed it was kind of a mutual fight at that point, I would think.
Yeah, I think it was, and there
It
were.
just sounds weird, right? Like you would just call each other out and then we would just shoot each other.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
But
and,
I mean,
and,
how
and
long-
then it's okay because I called you out.
Yeah, and what, that's 1800s?
No, this was early 1900s. Everything kind of happened
100
between
years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, no,
100 years ago, we're just having duels in the street
Yes.
before Pierce.
That's what I would say. Like, we're not far removed
No.
from that kind of behavior.
No.
Like, it's kind of weird, right?
Like, because it's just so unimaginable to like us sitting here,
Right.
like,
Well, can you imagine they had no air conditioning? They didn't have a lot
I
of
say
running
this-
water.
They're
I say this
irritable.
all the
A
time.
lot of frustration.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, I say this
irritable.
all the time. If I didn't have air conditioning, I might kill someone.
Yeah. Yeah. There
So-
are times.
Here in Florida, especially. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I can totally understand like why somebody would be so upset and mad
And
all
you had to
the
wear all
time.
those clothes and
I wouldn't.
smelly, there's
Yeah,
probably
yes.
a bunch of stuff going on.
all right, any other murders?
There, the McCartys that I mentioned earlier, the early ones.
Is that McCarty Ranch?
Yeah. Yes.
Is that named after them?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. Dan McCarty and his wife. No, Dan, not Dan. Charles McCarty and his wife Elizabeth came here in the late 1880s, around that
Okay.
time period. So he was an attorney and she was a school teacher. There was a man who wanted to sell his property. And actually, the oldest building in downtown Fort Pierce is the P.P. Cobb building, and it's named after Peter Cobb.
Okay.
So this is a man
Which
who
one is that? What building is it?
It's the green and white. It sits right on the roundabout in downtown. It's a wooden vernacular. It looks out by the marina
Okay.
in downtown. So so Peter Cobb was a very instrumental man in early Fort Pierce. Anyways, this man, Rawlinson, because there's Rawlersons and that's not the right connection. Rawlinson was going to sell his land. P.P. Cobb had a lien against his land. He didn't get sold. He was mad. He was going to shoot P.P. Cobb. Well, instead, he waited for P.P. Cobb one morning to go to his store. Instead, Peter Cobb's attorney, Charles McCarty, walked into the barber shop. He saw him, walked into the barber shop, saw him sitting there, walked back out, waited outside the door. And as soon as Charles McCarty walked out, he shot him dead in the street. And you would think that this man would get a lot of jail time.
Yeah.
No, he
No.
very little jail time for.
Really?
I mean,
So
this
he
is
shot.
first
just-
degree murder.
Yeah. There was no quarrel
Plans.
there. It just come out, boom.
So
Yeah.
he shot Cobb's attorney
Mm-hmm.
because he was mad at Cobb.
Yes, and
Makes
Charles
sense.
McCarty was another instrumental man in downtown Fort Pierce. He was just a fine, upstanding gentleman. Just doing his job.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
And who was that shot him?
This Rawlinson,
Rawlinson.
and I have to say that very carefully because Rawlinson is a very old name in Fort Pierce and Okeechobee, actually.
Oh,
Rollins.
Yeah.
all right. Any
So-
others?
That's a,
Oh,
no, you're good. I'm just wow.
That's
Keep-
crazy.
Keep rolling. They
Yeah.
just keep coming.
Yeah. Let's stick with the murders.
Yeah.
no, I think that's our most salacious.
Those are the worst ones.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
That is crazy though. Like, I just can't imagine like living in those times. I mean, I guess I could, right? Because people did it, but it's just funny that our society is just very different than back then, where again, like Corey was saying, like we don't just go out and shoot each other.
Well,
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully,
Well,
hopefully.
yeah.
So
but
you-
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you're right, because like we see it in movies, like, oh, no big deal because we see it there, but it's really that happened in real life and it's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
I was just gonna
Yeah,
second that.
I'll be a Huckleberry.
Yeah, Tombstone. There you go.
So you write or no, you edit for the Main Street
Uh-huh.
Focus. Okay.
Mhm.
And
I do write sometimes.
and what is that exactly?
The Main Street Focus, it's a local newspaper, and our thing is that we write about the good happenings in downtown Fort Pierce. So we do a historical article. We try to put one in every month. It doesn't always happen. I'm normally the one that writes that. But we do, if there's new businesses opening up or if there's events that are going on, we write about those types of things.
Okay. So try to keep it on the positive side.
Very positive.
And
There's
so,
plenty of bad news out there.
Exactly.
There's
exactly.
plenty of bad
That
news.
right.
and how do people get a hold of that paper?
It's distributed free in most of the downtown library, most of the downtown businesses, and then you can be put on our mailing list. If you go to mainstreetfortpierce.org, you can find out more information about that. It is online. It's on Facebook. It has its own Facebook page. So-
Okay. Is it on Twitter or?
No, not yet. We're not that sophisticated.
We barely are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we are either.
don't you worry about that.
For real.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, we really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
It was like very short notice.
Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate you coming on. Yeah.
I learned a ton. Historically, I never knew that much about Fort Pierce. Makes me
No.
want to even reach out about my area, even. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
yeah.
kinda-
So you said there was
Yeah.
one in Vero, right?
Yes, there is a Main Street program in Vero as well.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. That'll be next year.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So if we could ask you one final question before we part ways, based on your experience, what is one of the most important pieces of advice you can give to our listeners?
I'm going to go with something that we at Main Street want everyone to do, and that's shop small, shop local. And that's what keeps your little downtowns going, which have all these fun things to do. And so I'm going to say that.
Yeah. You know what?
Support your local merchants.
Yeah, we all pretty much agree with you on that because we all, like, more than anything, we eat local.
Mhm.
Like, we don't go to big restaurants for the most part. And we just feel that it just tastes better.
Yes, absolutely.
It tastes better.
Absolutely. And you're
absolutely.
supporting those people, keep their taxes in your local communities, and they pay for Little League and they pay other people in your community.
Absolutely.
So it goes out and branches out.
Awesome.
Great advice.
Thank you so much. We
Right.
really appreciate you,
Thank you.
coming on.
All right, guys, please share our stuff on social media. If you guys got any questions, comments, or concerns, you can or email us at fullgrilloflife@gmail.com.
And if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us at Instagram
On Instagram.
and Facebook at Full Gorilla Life, and Twitter at Gorilla Full, like beautiful, but with a gorilla.
And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always reach us at, you can just visit our website, fullgorilla.life. See, is what I get for correcting Jeremy.
You nailed it.
And then, by the way, this is Larry. And also, please do not forget to hit subscribe on your podcast app of choice.
Later.
AAA batteries.